Football fans being nostalgic for the eras they grew up with is nothing new, and nostalgia can often be unreasonable.
It's more than a great team, it's the best!
But have Premier League football shirts genuinely gotten worse in the last 20 years? Cast your mind back to New Year's Day in 2005. Do They Know It's Christmas is at the top of the UK charts. Chelsea are well on their way to winning their first Premier League title, sitting 5 points clear of Arsenal in second. And the top flight of English football has 14 different kit manufacturers representing its 20 clubs. How did that happen? No, seriously, how did that happen? Well, the heavy hitters of today, Nike and Adidas, hadn't yet managed to monopolise the space like they have now, which we'll come to later. In the 04-05 season, 50% of Premier League clubs had entirely unique kit manufacturers. Spurs were with Kappa, Fulham with Puma, Norwich kits were made by Zara, whoever they are. Blackburn had just kicked off their iconic Prime Barclays Lonsdale era. Middlesbrough were with Araya, Charlton with Joma, Newcastle with Adidas, and Aston Villa were wearing Hummel kits. There were even two clubs that opted for in-house designs. Portsmouth and Southampton both decided to make their own attire for the season, which again is something we very rarely see at the top level these days. The other 50% of the league was split between Nike, Umbro, Reebok and Diadora, with the latter two being the most dominant, both making kits for a whopping 3 clubs each. Fast forward to the present day and the landscape has completely changed. 75% of Premier League kits are made by just 3 companies in the 24-25 season, with Adidas leading the charge towards monopolising the league with 7 clubs in their portfolio. Nike and Umbro make up another 8 clubs, leaving just 5 teams not wearing one of these 3 brands on a match day. Only 3 teams in the league have unique manufacturers this season. Everton, who seemingly didn't get the memo about Castor's quality issues and stuck with them. Crystal Palace, who signed a long-term deal with Macron in 2022. And Wolves, whose kits are made by Sudo, a subsidiary of Fosun Group, the Chinese conglomerate that owns their club. This lack of diversity amongst manufacturers has left a lot of fans feeling like football shirts all look the same these days. Which is true. They kinda do. There's only so many templates to go around, and when so many clubs share the same manufacturer, there's bound to be similarities in the designs that we see on the pitch. Templates aren't a new thing either. Look at the Liverpool, Manchester City and Bolton kits from 2004. They're all very similar, but with only 3 clubs using the template, the issue wasn't as noticeable as it is today. But how did we end up in this situation? Why have all of the less common manufacturers disappeared from the top flight of English football? Well, as usual, it's a matter of economics. The globalisation of football in general and the dominance of the Premier League in terms of viewers compared to other top flight leagues has meant that there are now more fans than ever, which sounds like great news for manufacturers, surely. Well, kind of. But this comes with issues for a lot of brands. 20 years ago, there was a big 4 in the Premier League: Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal, and then relative newcomers, Chelsea. These were the teams that had massive global fan bases, with fans across Europe, the US, and Asia. The rest of the league had nowhere near these levels of overseas support.
You've got no fans?
Meaning they only really needed to worry about the domestic demand for their kits. When a company agreed to manufacture kits for one of these big clubs, they did so on the understanding that their costs would be high, but profits should outweigh these costs due to the high demand. Today, there is now a recognised Big 6 in the Premier League, and plenty more clubs that have developed huge international followings across the globe as TV deals have become more common in multiple continents. This leaves smaller sportswear companies in a difficult position. Do they scale up their operation and attempt to compete with Nike and Adidas? Or do they pivot their brands into focusing on maximising profits in domestic markets? We saw this back in 2020, when even New Balance struggled to keep up with demand for Liverpool kits, after Jurgen Klopp's side won the Champions League and Premier League in back-to-back seasons, and they were eventually replaced by Nike, who have no such problem. Most brands seem to have chosen the option of dropping out of the market for the biggest clubs. You'll see much more diversity across manufacturers in the Championship because of this, as that is the market that a lot of manufacturers have chosen to attempt to capture. This is a problem that's been getting worse and worse for years now, and it doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon. With Adidas set to pick up more teams next season, the Premier League looks set to drift towards an era of similarity. Let's just hope the templates in the future are really versatile, because it looks like they're going to need to be.